David Etienne, CPA and Management Consultant. Your host, Crossroads, Navigating Business Challenges. I invite you to visit our website, etiennestrategicmc.com. Ensure to register, to share, and to leave your comments. Also, we can be found on the various social media platforms. So keep in touch so that you're kept up to date as to what is happening, when it's happening, and all the good stuff that is to come. Today, we'll be looking at business life cycle. Why business life cycle? Because like any other organism which our business happens to be, there is a cycle. There's a birth, there's a life, and there is a death or an end to a process. So today we focus on business life cycle. Crossroads, navigating business challenges. Welcome all. So today is our first official podcast. Today, after that grand introduction, we are ready to roll. Business life cycle. So what are we going to be talking about? The creation of a business, like anything else, has a beginning. It has a process, and it comes to a point where we may have to contemplate ending such a process. So today we'll be looking at that cycle. Particular attention will be paid to the various phases and stages. But the emphasis is going to be on the challenges, the opportunities that arise at the several different phases and stages. So you're a business owner, you're a business operator. Why is it important that you are aware of exactly at what point your business is at? As a matter of fact, we sent out a survey and we asked several questions. And the feedback was quite interesting because for most individuals, they were not able to specifically identify the exact stage at which that business was operating. So today we're going to be looking into all those facets and seeing what are the opportunities that each phase brings and also the challenges that we need to address. What am I expecting that you should get from this? Well, from today's podcast? Simple, straightforward. I want you to be able to look at your business, look at the history of your business, look at your projected future actions and activities, and be able to assess, where am I at this point in time? What are the steps that I've already covered? What are the challenges that I faced in those steps? What were the opportunities that came about in those steps gone by? Then, let me project to the future. What are the potential opportunities that will arise in the future? What are the attendant challenges that I'm expecting to face? And by so doing, you'll be able to structure your operations and be proactive. So let's jump right into our business life cycle. I like to always say it this way. One day out of the blue, you just thought of this grand idea. Wow, I have an idea, and I think it could be a worthwhile business venture. And so you get this little excitement. Yes, I think I can. Yes, I think I can. But at that point, it is just a thought, a dream. And we all at one time or at one point or the other have these little dreams and aspirations. But quite often, they do not materialize into anything substantial. So how do we take this dream, this hope, this aspiration from just that into something that is more tangible? I classify this phase or this stage as what I call the seed phase. The seed phase. And we're trying to keep it very practical. The seed phase. So something came to mind and you're wondering, is this the thing? Does this have potential to grow into something more than just a dream? So it's a seed phase. The seed phase tend to be very challenging. Why? Because sometimes, although you are clear in your mind about this dream, to translate it into something that is actionable is quite often the challenge. So right away, it could be a very good idea. It could be something that is just passing you by in the night. But the bottom line is that once you decide to take this idea and move it into the realm of reality, there comes your first challenge. How do I convert? How do I translate? So that's a phase one. That's a baby phase. That's a baby phase. Once you have structured yourself and you have done some amount of homework, some amount of due diligence, and you recognize that, yes, there's a potential. There are potentials here. Then you talk about moving to your startup phase. Startup phase. Now, startup phase of any business can be very, very, very challenging. The startup phase, for many reasons. Many reasons. It may be because of the lack of capital. It may be because although you're a good plumber, mason, electrical expert, you are not a natural business thinking person. You may be a technical person, very good with the trade in which you specialize. But it does not necessarily translate into being a businessman, I like to say, to put it. So that startup phase is very tricky. And that is usually the point where individuals are advised to seek counsel. Speak to the experts. Or if you have your peers, your family members, your friends who are in business and possibly in the same type of business that you're contemplating, it's worthwhile to have a discussion to ascertain. When you were starting your business, what were the challenges? What came up that you did not expect? How did you handle it? How did you manage it? Okay, so all of that is what we refer to as a startup phase. Startup phase. Statistics has shown that startup phase, if not handled properly, if not handled with business intelligence, is where most of the dreams that attempt to move into something tangible will fail. So if you notice, we look at the birth of an idea, the birth of a dream, the birth of a thought. We decide, okay, let's attach a bit of reality to it. And so we're moving then into our startup phase. Grand opportunities may be there. But let's back up a bit. Why would I want to start a business? Is it that I have identified an opportunity that I can capitalize on? Is it that I just feel that, okay, I just want to be a businessman? Is it that I'm just tired of working for corporate. There are so many reasons behind a decision to get into your own business. And as I like to say, though those reasons may not necessarily be firm reasons to drive you to get into something of your own, the point is they of themselves will not necessarily be a recipe for failure. But it is important that whatever the reason for going into business, you quickly transition mentally into that mold and that phase of starting to think like a businessman. So, germination of the idea is there. And then we decide, let's go with it. And so we look at our startup phase. If we should assume that everything goes well and we pass that phase and it's almost like a baby, teething pain is over, and we now start to roll. We start to roll. And so we're now capitalizing on the opportunities that we identified. And so we're looking to grow this business. You have heard from time to time of the term scaling your business. We're not there as yet. This growth that I'm talking about is just you trying to get your operation to a level where it is and the term that is used here is, it is a going concern. It's a going concern, meaning that it has the ability and the capacity to satisfy a demand. And in satisfying this demand, it is generating revenue. And by generating revenue, it is able to take care of its overheads, of its expenses, and hopefully also give you, the business owner, some benefits, some return. Okay? So that's what we're talking about, the growth phase. We're going through the growth phase. Growth phase. Now, the growth phase itself, again, carries its own challenges. But the growth phase also have immense opportunities. What are some of the challenges of the growth phase? Top of the line, especially for individual entrepreneurs, small business, that growth phase is usually funding. Access to capital. Most small businesses will be funded by savings, retirement money. Remember I said earlier on that, well, I didn't mention that, but another possible reason or prodding to get into your business is where you have decided, okay, I've reached to the point where I am now retired, but I still feel strong and healthy and I'm with it. So instead of just living on the retirement money, the pension, I'm going to invest this money so that it can generate more funds to me. So that's another source or potential source of funding that business. So as I said, it could be from your personal savings, retirement funds. You may borrow money from family members. You could borrow money from family members, okay? So there are several different avenues from which you can get funding. Irrespective of the source, funding is usually one of the fundamental problems or challenges, really, that new businesses will face. More so for small and sole proprietors, small operators, who quite often do not have access to the traditional pool of capital. But that is what we talk about, the growth phase. That's a challenge. Where is the opportunity in that phase? The opportunity comes from one of two areas, or it could come from both. If you had identified an opportunity that you're capitalizing on, then that is an opportunity that you're grasping. You may have heard the term niche marketing. Niche marketing. And we'll be looking at niche marketing in much more details down the road. But niche marketing is nothing more than you identifying a particular segment of the market and you're going to focus your attention, focus your resources on that area. So as the saying goes, you cannot and should never try to be all things to all men. Same thing with business. You should never try to satisfy all demands in your neck of the woods. No, you identify an area that you think you're good at or best at, and you go there. So that opportunity is there. That opportunity is there to capitalize. On the other hand, if you're a genius, you may decide, I am going to provide a novel service, a novel product. And I'm going to provide it in such a way, and I'm going to market it in such a way that the public will be convinced that this service or this product is a must-have. Now, admittedly, that is going to be a much more challenging approach. Because remember, if there's a demand out there and you step in to fulfill it, then your market is ready. Your market is available. However, if you think you're going to create product or service and can convince people to jump in, then that's a wonderful opportunity that comes. So we look at the challenge, we look at the opportunities at each stage and each phase. Okay, so you're successful. Things are happening. And so you can see the growth. And the growth is reflected by how your clientele base is expanding, how your revenue inflows is just increasing, you're managing your cost, everything is just working right. Let's go and look at some of the potential pitfalls. The potential pitfalls. And if I was to look back at the startup phase, one of the potential pitfalls, and remember I said earlier on that you may be a very good electrician, mason, etc., which does not automatically transform or transfer into a good businessman. So at the startup phase, there's a challenge of what I call matching the business opportunity that you identify with your natural ability or with your capacity to satisfy. So it's one thing to identify the opportunity, but the question is, am I equipped? Am I empowered enough? Am I knowledgeable enough to really take on this challenge? That's one thing very good. In the growth phase that we just mentioned, it also has a challenge. Now, with the growth phase, you're going to realize that every business has what is known as scarce resources. Scarce resources. It's a natural economic problem. That is really an economic problem. Scarce resources in the face of the demands, the needs. And so the way that it is characterized is limited supply trying to satisfy unlimited demand, so to speak. So you as a new business person, you have resources, but they are limited. So in that growth phase, you have to decide what is the best, what is the most efficient, what is the most economic way for me to apply these limited resources to achieve maximum growth. That in itself can be a great challenge because remember, you are limited and so you want to know what is the best use of my limited resources. That's the growth phase. Good, let's move along. And so things are going well. You turn out to be a better businessman than you even thought yourself. And so you reach to that point where after a year or 2 or 3, you consider that your business is now established. Now, what does it mean that by saying that your business is established? There's no single or firm description of that. It is an evaluation, it's an assessment of where you are in your field, in your industry, vis-a-vis your competitors, vis-a-vis what is happening in that industry overall. But you have reached the point where you consider yourself an established business. So you're established. What is likely to happen, and this one is very subtle, but it's a dangerous one. Small operators especially, when they reach that stage and place where they consider that business is now established, complacency steps in. So you hear people talk about, okay, he used to come to the office 5 days a week, spend 8 hours in the office. Now he only drops in 2 days per week. He's the boss, 2 days per week. And when he comes, he just asks the staff, is everything okay? Is there any problem today? No, and then he's off. Not saying anything is wrong with that. But if that comes at the cost of attending to your business less faithfully than you used to in the beginning, then that's a potential pitfall. And it is so subtle that you're not aware that there's some fallout until 6 months, 7 months, 8 months later, when a problem arises, you realize that, okay, man, I have been so complacent. I have not been on the ball. And that is one of the great challenges that you could face when you come to that stage where you say, okay, I'm established, and so you almost think that the business is now on autopilot. That's another stage, that's another phase. And so, again, you weather this phase, you pass through it unscathed, and you're good to go. You're an established business, and you are having the best of what the business has to offer. But there comes a point now, which I mentioned earlier on, where you're contemplating, maybe it's time that we should consider expansion. Maybe it's time that we should think of scaling, and you have heard that. For those of you who like to watch Shark Tank and, etc., you hear about scaling your business. So we want to take it to the next level. We want to grow the business to the next level. So yes, it is established, it's doing well, but we may say, we have been servicing these 2 counties or the city of A, B, and C. Maybe we should think about expanding to maybe a few other cities. Scaling, okay? Expanding. So there's the expansion phase. Once you think of expansion, you're thinking of entering a new market. Why am I saying a new market? It can be a new market because, 1, such a service or such a product is not yet offered in those areas, or 2, such service, such product is being offered by competitors, of course. So if you decide you want to expand into those areas, then the first challenge that you'll be facing is the fact that it comes from the fact that you are trying to take market share away from those operators who are currently operating in that area. That in itself is a major challenge. That is a major challenge. Okay? If you go into a market and it's there and the demand is there and everything is fine, okay. But when you enter and trying to capture portions of a market that is now being serviced by another, there is that challenge. There's always that challenge, and that comes in the expansion phase. A big pitfall here is where businesses scale up without undertaking proper market research. Proper market research. If you're thinking of expanding, of growing out, you need to do your due diligence to understand what is happening, where the market is going. Because a quick illustration, if for whatever is happening in the economy, there's a sudden demand for product Y, that's an opportunity. But if that demand is just for the next 6 months, would you want to increase your capacity, buying more machinery, more equipment at high cost just to satisfy a 6-month increase in demand? So in months 7, 8, 9, and 10, what will happen? Nothing. So you need to do the proper research and be aware of what is happening in your industry and sometime in the broader in the broader economy. But let us say again, things are okay and you move, you make your move, and expansion is there. And so your company has grown from a $15 million company to a $45 million company. And so you have expanded and things are looking good. Like anything else in life, expansion and growth and improvement cannot go on forever or cannot go on into perpetuity. There'll come a time when you plateau. Simple. There's gonna come a time when you reach that stage where you say, my business is now matured. I have a mature business, I have explored, I have investigated, I have capitalized on the opportunities, I have gone through my share of challenges, I have overcome, I have identified the opportunities and I have grasped them, hence I've grown, hence I've expanded, and now I have a mature business. Now, once you have a mature business, it is, and this is just me putting it this way, it is almost similar to you walking on a treadmill. You're moving, but you're not moving forward. But you need to continue to move in order to stay where you are. Because the minute you stop, you know what is happening. You have seen all these little stupid videos on YouTube. You know, the minute you stop walking, then you got, it's this exact same thing. Okay? You reverse. That is it with a mature business. You reach to that point where there's no more expansion. But you need to maintain that momentum just to remain where you are. Because to be less than proactive, to be less than faithful to the task, you're going to find that you now start to regress. So that mature phase is characterized by things like declining sales. It's a natural thing. Declining sales. Your profit is not as large as it used to be. You may find that you now start to experience cash flow problems, although cash flow problems can occur at any phase or stage. But that usually is what is one of the characterizing, the characteristics of that phase where you talk about a mature business phase. You're there, your business is mature, you're running on the treadmill, but you're still maintaining. That in itself cannot go on forever. You will reach that stage where you have to make one of two decisions. You hear the term, re-engineer, reinvent. So it's either you're going to say with the movement and the changes in the economy, with the movement and the changes in society, with the movement and changes in what my competitors are doing, then for me to continue to survive, I will now have to reinvent myself. Reinvent myself. Whether by getting up to speed with the current technology, changing my workflow, changing my business model, whatever it takes, it is required at this stage that you rethink your processes. And so you talk about re-engineering. Same structure, same facility, but tweaking it to better serve the current realities of the market. Because maybe what was happening and bringing great success 5, 10, 15 years ago, right now is not quite cutting it. But you're at a mature phase, and so you need to look at this. Now, the businesses who find themselves at the mature phase and fail to be proactive about reinventing self, re-engineering, restructuring, those are the businesses that are staring in the eyes of doom and gloom, in the sense that the market will leave you. Your customers will leave you. And that is the mature phase. And if it comes to that you're not prepared to really re-engineer, then contemplation of an exit strategy is key. Because that again is that it would be the final phase of the business life cycle. It has come to an end, but even at that point, proper planning is important. And we talk about business exit strategy. What am I expecting you to take from all this? Look at your operations, be able to identify the exact point at which you're operating, and therefore look at all the challenges, the opportunities, and be proactive. Be proactive. So today we looked at the business life cycle in a very condensed manner. In the weeks to come, we're going to break this all apart. And we're going to be addressing different components. We'll be looking at it from different perspectives. I will have different industry experts coming to really expand on these principles, these concepts, so that we can be more informed and be more empowered. So that's about it for our first podcast, and I would invite you to remember now, just go on, register, share, leave your comments, and let us know exactly how you're finding the podcast. Give us your feedback so we can keep on doing good stuff and informing you and ensuring that you as a business person, you are empowered. This is David Etienne, Crossroads, Navigating Business Challenges. So you are the first listeners of my very first podcast. And so as a special treat, I have a business wellness questionnaire that I'll be posting on my website. I'm inviting you to just go on, complete this questionnaire, and I will do a full review and arrange to have a one-to-one with you just to help you to ascertain exactly where you're at and let's just say the financial health of your operation.